Hello, everyone. Um, um, it's obvious that the ancient Western political thought is not only a source for the global modern political thought. The political thought in the Islamic world in medieval ages were also quite fruitful and illuminating. I will briefly summarize examples of influences of the Islamic political thought as an illuminating experience of the medieval political thought in the Islamic world. So in this context, I'm going to briefly deal with the impact of the ancient Greek legacy on the Islamic political thought, particularly through works of Al-Fârâbî and Ibn Sina, Islamic jurisprudence and political thought with reference to the Al-Mawardi's work, and ethics and politics in Islamic political thought with reference to the works of Ibn Rushd. And lastly, I am going to briefly discuss about the Ibn Khaldûn's contributions to the political thought. Ancient Greek philosophy had impacts on the Islamic political thought, mostly through Plato and Aristotle's works. In fact, the ideal of the prophet king resembles much with the Platonic ideal of philosopher king. In addition to this, considerations of the ethical values in the appointment of the rulers owes quite much to the Aristotelian thought. On the other hand, this shouldn't lead us to conclusions such as that Al-Fârâbî and Ibn Sina had no contributions. On the contrary, the elaborations of the functions of religion in social as well as political life had given rise to further discussions on jurisprudence. To see the influence of the ancient Greek philosophy on Islamic political thought, we can look at Al-Fârâbî's works. Al-Fârâbî, for example, argued directly that the true philosophy was handed down to us from the Greeks, such as Plato and Aristotle. According to Al-Fârâbî, human beings collaborate as societies in order to preserve themselves and to attain their highest perfection. Without this, he emphasized, man cannot attain the perfection. This view, for example, illustrates quite a vivid consistency with the views of Aristotle's on human flourishing. In the Western political thought, Ibn Sina's metaphysic and theory of the spirit had also a profound influence on the particularly scholastic arguments. Similarly, in the Islamic political thought, he was the basis, Ibn Sina was the basis for considerable debate and arguments. Islamic philosophers like Ghazali, for example, admitted that no serious Muslim thinker could ignore Ibn Sina. Actually, Ibn Sina could be claimed to be principal representative of the philosophy in the Islamic world during the medieval ages. Islamic jurisprudence and political thought in Al-Mawardi's works. Al-Mawardi, one of another great thinkers of the Islamic political thought, and one another great feature of the third chapter of the book Political Thought is that it provides a quite enlightening information concerning the analysis of the relationship of Islamic jurisprudence with the political thought. And it achieves this, it tries to achieve this through various references to Al-Mawardi's work. What we can say about Al-Mawardi is, first of all, we should emphasize that different from the Al-Fârâbî and Ibn Sina, Al-Mawardi hadn't dealt with much speculative issues. For example, he didn't pay much attention to relating politics to theories of knowledge, intellect, or being, and so forth. This is the reason why his thoughts and works actually might be evaluated as the preliminaries of the Islamic political science. We should keep in mind that the Islamic law and science of law are important preconditions to talk about the political affairs in the Islamic civilization. Al-Mawardi is considered the first political scientist in the Islamic world who was not concerned much with speculative and metaphysical issues. Rather than that, he emphasized the standards of being appointed as a ruler, as an administrator, and the standards of being the electors of the ruler were also occupied a significant space in his works. In addition to this, his thoughts were considered revolutionary in the 11th century when he admitted the ruler as the representing authority of the prophet rather than God. When we look at the ethics and politics in the Islamic political thought, the first figure appeared as Ibn Rushd. It wouldn't be wrong if we raise the argument that the ethics and the politics occupy a significant size of literature in Islamic political thought, especially in medieval ages. As I emphasized, one of the great representative of such discussion in Islamic political thought of the medieval ages was Ibn Rushd. Concerning the relation between philosophy and religion, Ibn Rushd's perspective was that studying philosophy was a command of Sharia law. Sharia law, according to Ibn Rushd, is not something that illustrates an obstacle for developing philosophical ideas concerning to the social world. His thoughts on the relationship between ethics and politics were in fact in compliance with those of Plato and Aristotle. He evaluated ethics and politics as two parts of the same science, and he considered the state as the necessary ground for the attainment of ethical perfection. Ibn Rushd was not in agreement with Al-Fârâbî on the relationship between philosopher and non-philosophers. Instead, he mostly agreed with Plato's thought on the degeneration, corruptions of ideal rule. Lastly, let's have a brief look at how can we evaluate Ibn Khaldûn's contributions to political thought. It perhaps can be said that Ibn Khaldûn is the most influential figure of the Islamic political thought on the Western political philosophy. Quite a number of contemporary philosophers today point out him as the father of the modern political thought. And in fact, we can easily agree with such views of the contemporary philosophers if we look at how his great works. One of them is called Muqaddimah, was insightfully written. This third chapter of our book, Political Thought, analyzes the three fundamental concepts, namely asabiyah, mülk, and umran in Ibn Khaldûn's Muqaddimah. The most striking relations and judgments to be drawn out the Muqaddimah can be summarized in 4 points. First of all, asabiyah, which means group solidarity, is the precondition for the existence of the social life as well as the political authority. The second is that mülk, which means state, and umran, which means culture and civilization, are related just like form and matter. Sovereignty and the sedentary cultures have lifespans just like human beings is the third important point of the book Muqaddimah, Ibn Khaldûn's Muqaddimah. And the fourth point is that it is possible to postpone the death of sovereignties and urban civilizations if the administration is a just person, if the administration take the justice under the security. This third chapter of the book provides a quite convincing views that the modern political thought doesn't only lie in ancient Greek and Roman political philosophy, but it has also some roots in the medieval Islamic political thought. Looking at the various concepts and how they were used in relation to political affairs and social life in medieval Islamic world, this argument can be quite easily underpinned. There isn't only one source of inspiration for the modern political thought. For example, when we look at the Al-Mawardi's works, Ibn Sina's, Ibn Rushd's works, we see that those works inspired many contemporary political scientists. In addition to this, Ibn Khaldûn's discussions on state, culture, and civilizations also influenced significantly to the modern political thought, which we can observe this through discussions of Enlightenment age. Thank you.